are we making testing faster or things like that. But I think you're really quality engineering testing should be supporting the overall business goals, should be supporting the broader engineering team to deliver value in some way, shape, or form, right? So less of a question to me about like strict ROI calculation because it's quite hard to quantify the investment, the return on investment. And it's more about what kind of metrics are you trying to capture? What are your business goals? And so I sort of see like 3 tiers of metrics that you can track. And most organizations really can't get to the top level. So you sort of have at the lower level, you have just kind of quality engineering execution type metrics, like how long does it take to complete your test? What is your defect leakage and metrics like that, and you figure out what you need to optimize and you improve on that. You go up a level and it's more about general engineering, software delivery, what's the time to value and things like that. And then if you're really, really good, you can look at tying business goals back to what you're doing in quality engineering and software development. But usually that doesn't happen. And very, very rarely have I seen that happen across the organizations I work with. So my answer to that, Nate, is I'm not really a fan of ROI, but you definitely need metrics in place to measure the improvement and track the improvement.
Yeah, and I think kind of to echo on that, like so many things in the software testing and quality world, it's so contextual. Because I have metrics that I care about. My testers have metrics that they care about, and it looks at ROI can have kind of, you can look at it in different connotations as well. My testers will look at ROI and how much time am I saving running this through automation than if I had to step through this manually. So that's one version of ROI that they care about. I don't necessarily, in a larger quality scale, I don't really care at this point in time. It's, for me, it's how efficient they are going through that. But one of the key things that I think I like to ask myself when it comes to quality metrics is, not what's my return on investment, is what would I like to see happen based on this metric? Why am I tracking this? So is that saving the business money? Is it, reducing the mean time to resolution? What value is this metric providing me, and what is it driving?
And just to piggyback on that, it matters so much based on what the company you're working at is. Like one of my favorite customers, one of the top, biggest companies in the world, and we did what we call a quality maturity assessment to see how good their overall quality practices are. And you talk to them, what are your goals? And probably 90+% of companies want to save money. And I asked this company, what are your goals? And they never mentioned saving money. I was like, don't you want to save money with your testing? Isn't that something you want to do? And they're like, no, we don't care. We don't care if we spend more money. We just want this to be faster. We want to get a better quality product out to our customers. Whereas other, particularly in, we're in Houston, right? Almost all of the, oil and gas companies you'll work with, they're all about saving money at the moment. They're all about how can we drive cost efficiencies. So it really does depend on the organization and their goals. You have the classical like health and life science kind of customers. They need very, very low levels of defects. You've got a startup. They don't really care how many defects they have out there. They just put the product out there. So it's all about optimizing for the business goals, like you say. I like that question in the chat as well. Peak asked, why are we tracking this metric? What value does it give us? And I think there's a lot of times where you end up tracking metrics because people want to see a metric, and you then change your behavior to meet that metric, even though it might not be driving towards what the business really wants. And like one other thing, when I talk to senior executives, no one at a senior executive level cares like really about the tools you're using. or about the number of test cases you have, but it is still like a common metric which is tracked, you know, by so many organizations. How many test cases do we have? How many test cases have we automated? It really doesn't matter that much.
I solved that in a previous company. I solved that by getting rid of all test cases. So then they couldn't track how many test cases we had, because I said, we have no test cases.
Did anyone freak out and lose their minds over it?
Oh, absolutely. But they freaked out for about the first 3 months. And then they started seeing the value in session-based test management and the reports that came out of there, and not having test cases.
Yeah.
So Dylan, I want to turn the conversation just slightly. We talked a little bit about, or Chris talked in metrics about when he communicates to a senior executive level. I'm curious, as you do that, what are the things that you find they're most interested in, and that how do you help build support for kind of this QE transformation at an executive level? And Dilhan, you're on mute.
Yep. Yes, Nate. I think mostly they, in the past and in the current aspect as well, they are very interested in how do we, optimize the current operation costs, right? That has been like a major aspect. So what we have done in the past and even now is that we have shown certain matrices or certain value points that we have converted certain of our tests to infrastructure platforms from certain cost tools to open source tools. And we've kind of shared that aspect and how we have invested upon that and the value that we actually add today on that. And then from the second point of view, how do we kind of from the resourcing point of view or the human element point of view, how we have build these cross-functional teams and then capture that value through reducing defects and in improving quality. So basically it's multiple angles, like looking at tooling, infrastructure aspects. We've done that, and not to mention that, mention that certain test environment optimizations that we've done. As example, there could be certain cloud test infrastructure which people just spin up and never take it down, right? So those are things that could happen as well. So how we've also looked at is how do we optimize based on containers, Kubernetes platforms. So rather than just having a load test environment just they are idling, we've used these new technologies to kind of optimize it. So track them on a monthly and kind of share it with certain scores internally is one. And then from a human resourcing point of view, we've done a lot to kind of show the value of embedding some of these engineers into cross-functional teams and helping reducing the defects at incident levels, right? So these are multiple areas we've done, and we continue to kind of report on these elements, Nate, to kind of keep everyone. And so cost is one aspect, but value is also important as well.
So is speed to market one of the things that's something you guys measure and communicate as well?
Since our context is a little bit different, in terms of e-commerce aspects, customer experience groups, yes, that's important. But when it comes to the overall supply chain aspects of what we do, then again, it has more optimizations for accuracy and all that, rather than just trying to ship, because we are not a consumer facing organization, right? Like a BTC, it's more B2B. Optimization of our routes, channel, supply chain is more important than going on the other aspects. So we do that pretty much on making those optimize delivery aspects and all that as well.
Thank you.
And I'd like to get Dylan's and Chris's perspective on this as well. But one thing that I've been noticing is that there's starting to be less and less of a importance put on necessarily speed to market and minimal viable product or minimal marketable product. There's becoming I'm seeing more and more importance on a minimal lovable product. So taking a little bit longer to release something that your clients are going to have a good experience about and that they're going to love instead of necessarily just getting something out there right away fast. I mean, it changes when you're in a brand new startup. Of course, you need to get something out there to get clients, but I'm seeing in more established medium to larger size companies that they're getting less concerned about speed to market and more concerned about making sure that the customer has a good experience.
I think that to me, that's a little bit analogous to what happened with Agile. And initially it was like this very low level of documentation, and people were like, yeah, that's not what we meant, right? And I think that's the same thing with minimum viable product. You know, one, it's not really suitable for certain enterprise level applications, right? You know, your back-end financial system, you don't want that to be a minimum viable product. I mean, everyone wants to get paid, right, by their company. So there's the context dependent nature of it, but there's also the fact that I don't think necessarily when people said minimum viable product, they meant to be releasing products with lots of major issues in it, right? I think when people mean minimum viable product, they mean something that what it does pretty well. So yeah, I see, I haven't heard that minimum lovable product term before, but I like it. And I see that the sort of the kind of cowboy nature that some people first took in some of these large organizations with an MVP is starting to go away as well.
Dylan, do you want to talk to that conversation, or do you want to?
I think I agree on that aspect as well, because it's speed and quality is important, but if that value is not added, then it doesn't make sense, right? If it doesn't improve the experience of the customer, employee, or suppliers, right, it doesn't really make sense. So yeah, I agree on that. Most of the comments.
Yeah. So we've hit around the topic of automation a bunch, and we kind of, when we talk about code, we're mostly talking automation. I'm going to suggest at some level, at least. Are there parts of testing that you just don't think are automatable, or whether this, because I think the question on lovable, like what lovable is not one I would want a computer to decide, right? Yeah, I'll say that lovable probably is not what I want a computer to decide. And I don't know how I measure how much I love my wife. I just don't have a good metric for it. I can tell you I do, but I don't have a metric for it. So what are the aspects of testing and quality engineering that are not about code or about or automatable in your mind?
Specifically around quality engineering, one thing that's not automatable is the relationships. You know, really when it comes down to it, in order to figure out, you know, what is quality, because quality is going to mean something different to everybody, and much along, you know, lovable is going to mean something different to everybody. One thing you can't automate is just networking and talking to people to get that better understanding of, you know, the product. And if you've never had an opportunity, I strongly suggest everyone, once again, public service announcement, if you get a chance and you feel comfortable, I like to ping CEOs or, you know, executives, if you can't do your CEO, and have a 30-minute coffee chat and figure out, you know, why they're passionate about the company. And that really kind of helps you understand, you know, what quality is in their view and what the purpose behind the company is that you're even working. Yeah, we work in a financial, and yeah, the purpose is to do this, but there's still somebody running it. And let me tell you, if that CEO wasn't passionate about it, they wouldn't be running it. I'm sure Chris can kind of attest to that. So it's always good to get that different perspective, especially if you find yourself, you know, maybe not so motivated at your job or something like that, just to re-spark that kind of passion in yourself. And that's just something that you can't, that people aspect of it, you can't automate yet.
I was just going to chime in and say, Nate, haven't you automated your good morning text to your wife yet? No, isn't that a good idea? It sounds like a terrible idea, right? Yeah. I think the short answer is, like, there's so many aspects of quality that are difficult to automate. There are fewer and fewer where you can't do. I think Jana talked about tool-assisted testing, right? There are very few cases where tools won't provide any value to your testing. But there are like a lot of areas, as you point out, is this a product that people are going to like, right? Is this product meeting the goals, not just the hard-coded, requirements, like if you have specification by example or something, not just the specification, but what the actual goal is. That's not something that you can automate. So lots of subjective things. And then even when you look at things like where you do use tools very heavily, like performance engineering, there's still a lot of analysis that needs to be done. So you can automate the test per se, right? The application of load to a system, but can you fully automate the analysis of that test? No, I don't think you can, at least not yet. So I think there's plenty of areas where, the human skill and expertise still comes into play.
Yeah, and one thing to add is, I think, I would say for the audience as well, code reviews. If you review your, test code or engineering code, you cannot, you can get SonarQube and, Git and everything to automate the data for you to have a measure, but that lead engineer or that peer engineer reviewing that code and giving that coaching aspect to that junior developer, I think that will never go away. That is a kind of a mentoring that I think everybody should have. And I think those kind of things, Nate, I don't think we can ever automate. The human element needs to be there. Otherwise, we won't be able to grow another engineer, right? So those are never to be automated, in my opinion.
I think you just hit on a really important aspect right there. Example, PR, because one of the things that I find developers fall into a trap of is they get a requirement and they understand how to implement it and they implement it, but they're never asking, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
And that's something that, it takes a human to ask why and do that reasoning. And that's something. And I do think in this instance, once again, our industry has done a disservice focusing so much on even the term test automation or automated testing. I've been trying to use, I'm okay with test automation, but automated testing drives me absolutely batty. But I'm trying to use tool-assisted testing much more because we've gotten, the pendulum has really swung from, let's test everything to, oh my gosh, automate all the things. And no, now we don't have to automate anything. And, trying to find that value or that balance between kind of what has been traditionally two different camps of thought of testers, testers need to be curious and testing is an activity, and well, there's test automation and automate everything. And I one thing that I'm really hopeful for and what I'm seeing is as we really push the concept of tool assisted testing, that we're bringing some of those mindsets together.
I think this is one thing that I actually worry about with too many people new to, the quality, new quality professionals coming from too similar a background. So, when I started, you would very rarely find anyone who was a quality professional who came from a development background. It would always be like kind of weird backgrounds, like people would have done like an arts degree, or they're a soccer player or whatever, like a musician. And I think that's actually something really cool about our industry, is that people come from these very varied backgrounds. And what's the thing that's consistent? They all have this attitude of like, why are we doing this? What is the point here? Why am I being asked to do this thing? I'm not a super fan of the like, I'm a tester, I break things kind of mentality. But even that, it's a kind of like countercultural sort of attitude. I worry that if we get all of our new quality professionals coming in as essentially junior developers, then we miss out on that. And then we miss out on this mentality, this advocacy for quality, for doing things in the right way and doing the right things that is really, really important to what we do. I mean, if we go down this natural path of, quality professionals getting more and more technical, then what does separate the skill set we have from developers? And I think it has to be the mindset. So that's one thing. I agree with everything about we need to be more technical and all this sort of stuff. But I do worry that if we follow that to its end conclusion and we're not careful, we miss out on the thing that fundamentally makes us different and makes us a specialization compared to development.
Thanks. And it's, let me ask this. We're getting near the end. I think we've addressed most of the questions from chat. So I want to kind of pose one question to the future. And Jenna, I really liked how you talked about being hopeful. So the question I want to ask is, like, I think quality engineering is a relatively new way to talk about and think about the work that people have been doing and what the scope of that work is and how we do it. What gives you hope for the future going forward about the, as software continues to eat the world? So more and more of what I do every day depends on software. How do I have hope for the future that, and as I'm exposed to software issues constantly, how do I have hope for the future that we're going in the right direction and things will improve? Jenna, I'm muted, so I'll let you go first.
Yep. So yeah, that's one of the things that I love about these meetups and the sharing of the idea and the fact that we have a variety of people here listening to us talk about quality engineering and the way forward. And like I said, I have a young lady on my team that came from customer support and was interested in testing. And we've got now leadership in place that are strong mentors, and that's what gives me hope that technology is not going to completely eat our world, or if it does, it's going to be at least of quality.
Dilhan, do you want to talk next about what gives you hope for your organization and the kind of improvements going forward?
Yeah, definitely. I think the most interesting thing is that how all these transformations are coming digitally, right? Because of the need for us to compete with all highest market cap companies in the world, right? Who are software companies. So because of that leadership is given from them, and definitely there is a need for us to follow that as well. But then again, from our industry point of view, being industry leaders is also important. So these kind of business dynamics and cultures, and we spoke about data, AI, and all that, it's really making it very important for us to kind of being innovative rather than just trying to do the status quo. So those are the key, the market dynamics and how the world is changing, how COVID has impacted, where everything is now global, right? These are the things that we need to kind of and also our people are really getting motivated to kind of learn and grow as well. So those are the things that are keeping us on the edge.
Yeah, Nate, and I think for me, so when we talk specifically about quality engineering, I believe there's been a trend in the last 5-10 years that quality and quality professionals have become more and more respected. So it used to be when I first started out, you just kind of got a bunch of junior people and you threw them at a software product and you said, like, hit some buttons for 20 days, right? I think now people are realizing, oh, there's some skill to this, there's some strategy to this, and they're respecting and understanding that. So for quality professionals, quality engineers, software testers, whatever you call yourselves, I think that is a good sign, and I think that's going to continue. I think in general, as it relates to technology, I think more and more we're learning and people actually understanding that technology we have has real human impact, and they're considering that when they design it. So, kind of to Jana's point, like, I think technology, even if it does eat the world, hopefully we've got some great quality engineers in place who build it the right way. But also we're going to have less and less situations where it's sort of the Terminators trying to kill us and more of things which are meant to enhance our lives. So that makes me hopeful too, Nate.
Awesome. So a bit earlier, Chris pitched and said, we're hiring, come here. I just want to quickly check with Jenna and Dilhan as well. Are either of you hiring? Do you want to make any mention about that for all the people in the audience and the ones that are going to watch on video? If I wanted to work with you, how would I do that?
We're not currently hiring at this time. I should be hiring in the next, we're targeting at Q2 for opening up some more headcount. So in the next couple of months, and the best way to check that out is just to go to mparticle.com/careers, and we post everything there.
Awesome.
Dilhan. From our side, Nate, we are continuously hiring in Houston and remote actually overall. So please go to careers at Cisco and the information technology team. It might not be directly maybe QA, but a lot of development and engineering roles. So please go out and look out for the open roles actually.
Thanks. Awesome. I was talking with one of the people I mentor, and I said, look, when you're picking a job, it's as important to find the right leader as it is to find the right role and the right kind of task. And I think this conversation has got 3 leaders that I would want to work for in the future. So thanks for sharing those links, everybody, and for your time today. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Yeah. That's okay. Thank you, Nate. Thank you.